why don't we start with the Wonderling? Why not? Let's just get right to it.
Okay.
If you would, give I'm terrible about summarizing other people's biographies and other people's books. So if I summarize an author's book, sometimes they'll turn to me and say, "Did you read my book? That's not what it's about at all." So since I have you here, rather than you listening to me talk about it, go ahead and give esteemed audience kind of the premise of the Wonderling.
I'm terrible summarizing my own books too, but I'll try. So my book is set in a kind of steampunk Dickensian world. I would say steampunk light. And it's about this character who is his name is number 13 in the beginning. He doesn't know his name. He doesn't know where he came from, and he's living in this terrible orphanage called Miss Carbuncle's Home for Wayward and Misbegotten Creatures. And he's bullied. He's a groundling, which is an animal-human hybrid, which is sort of lowest on the totem pole in his world. Humans are at the top and he's at the bottom, and they're treated really, groundlings are treated terribly. But he ends up making a friend, this little bird named Trinket, a bird groundling, and they escape the orphanage. And then they set off on adventures. I won't go into detail because I don't want to give anything away, but adventures ensue, trouble ensues, and along the way, my character's given a name, and he has a real name, and he has a quest to do, and he also has a very, very special gift that pretty much saves his life and saves the life of others, and that gift becomes more important in book 2. So I don't know if that is an awful summary. I don't know if you can add anything.
Well, I'm making a mental note that we should call him number 13 and not spoil his actual name. Is that right?
I think that, I think that in a lot of most reviews, you do get his name. So yes, we can say his name is Arthur, and he gets that name because he steps up to the plate and performs an act of bravery that is, he's a very, very shy, stuttering sort of creature. And so his new friend names him for, the great mythical or non-mythical King Arthur. So there are various Arthurian tropes throughout the series that if you're an Arthurian geek, you'll pick some up. And if you're not, doesn't matter. It's fine.
You'll become an Arthurian geek after you read this book.
You might.
Oh my gosh, I got to know more about King Arthur. Yeah. To the library.
Yeah.
And I had read that you had modeled Arthur on Sadie, your dog. Is that right?
Well, the very first drawing of my character was a one-eared rabbit, and then I stared at it for a while because a lot of my characters started out as drawings, and then I realized, oh, that looks just like Matt Groening's Life in Hell bunny from his comic series. So I thought I'm gonna get sued, and so I just was trying to think. I knew I wanted my character to have one ear. I really like a lot of sort of old folk tales, fairy tales, where a character has a lack but also a gain. In this case, he has a special gift where he can hear things from miles away, and he has a special musical gift that he doesn't really realize until much later. So I was just sitting there feeling bad about my failure with this one-eared bunny, and then I looked at my dog, who has she recently passed away, but she had gigantic pointy ears. She looked like a little black fox, and then that was it. I wanted my character to look a little like her, sort of a cross between a fox and a dog. So
I'm sorry to hear about Sadie.
Yeah, I loved her. She's still in my heart. So and I still draw pictures of her. So.
And a version of her will now live on for readers to encounter and enjoy in perpetuity, right?
Yes, I hope so.
She's achieved a kind of immortality almost.
Yes, she has. Definitely.
And I'm shocked to hear you say that this started off as the Life is Hell bunny, because I can't even imagine that version of Arthur. This must have been a long transition to where
Well,
we ended up.
actually, if I really go back, I recently found an old sketchbook where I had this tiny, tiny little drawing of this weird little creature. I don't know what it was, and it had one ear, and it just had a little comic bubble, thought bubble that said, "Hello, my name is One Ear," and that was it. I think I had this obsession with a one-eared creature for a long time, and I have no idea why. And then that morphed into the Life in Hell rabbit. So.
Do you often find you're obsessed about things without knowing the exact reason? Because I do.
Oh yeah, and it can be problematic, Rob, because like I dropped in all these hints and all these images in book one. Here's advice to writers writing a series. Know what those are going to be by the time before you publish that book, because when it came down to sitting down and writing book two, I'm like, why in the world did I put that in there? I better come up with a reason. I just kept seeing this image. I'm very image driven. And I just, for instance, these cats, there are cats everywhere. Um, the rich people in town are obsessed with cats, and they walk cats with these diamond collars. And I wasn't sure why. I just saw these characters with these high white hats, little birds attached to them on golden chains, and they're walking these cats with diamond collars. No idea why. Well, now I know. I've worked it out. But it would have been a lot easier if I had, pulled a J.K. Rowling and like spent 5 years plotting out 7 books, which is what she did. So it's good to know what you're doing eventually before you turn that manuscript. So anyway,
I think we lost audio for just a moment. Are you still with me?
Yeah. You pause. I mean, I'm not sure how much you got of that.
Oh, I heard everything down to it just helps that you're needing to plan out in advance to help future you out and not write yourself into a corner.
Yep.
Although I do find, and it could be just because of my way of looking at the world is hopelessly optimistic. Everything is magical in my mind. But I do find now that I'm coming up on the finishing the third Banneker Bones adventure, that although I had a plan, kind of more or less, I didn't do a detailed 5-year J.K. Rowling outline. There are a lot of things I don't do like J.K. Rowling, tragically. Always aspiring to. But I would find that there were things in the previous book that just worked perfectly. Like, oh my gosh, look at this present from past me who must have psychically known. I know that probably can't be true.
Well, I think there is a sense that, well, I've never done a series before. You're obviously more experienced in that. And I think mine just might be what's called a duology. At least that's where we're at now. We just keep it at 2 books because I have all these other projects I want to do. But I've known the end of I've known the trajectory, in many ways of the next book. And originally it was supposed to be 3, and then we all decided to make it 2. I've always known how it ended. I've always known how it began. I knew major sort of movements throughout the book. It's just these little weird details, like the cats, things like that. But they work themselves out. Thank goodness.
I clarify just a little bit because I always like to tease my magical thinking. I also think there's a great deal of necessity being the mother of invention. Now that I've written myself to this point, it has to work, so it does.
Yeah, exactly. It has to work, and it's and then when it works, you're like, oh, of course, that's so logical. That makes so much sense. Of course you would put those cats in there. That makes so much sense. So somewhere in my subconscious, I think I knew the answer, and I just was, obsessed with these images, and you just have to trust yourself that you're going to figure it out, because you will. I do. It's that moment of not knowing and going, oh my God, what was I thinking? I don't know what I'm doing here, which happens sometimes.
Trying to think. I can't remember who the author is, but I'm going to go ahead and just quote them anyway. You read so much author advice over the years that sometimes you forget the name. So if anybody out there knows, leave it in a comment so everybody can credit this quote directly. But he said that half of what goes on in an author's mind is none of their business. Which I've always thought was
great. That is great.